the... Alright guys, so as of right now, what I'm going to be trying to figure out is what ring gap I'm going to be going with. So basically how you figure it out is you will take, let it focus, you'll take your bore, multiply it by whichever one you're going to be going with. I'm going to be shooting for the highest horsepower one. And so what it says to do is take your engine bore, which I have my sheet from the machine shop right here, which this is just another one I was figuring out, but it's 3.3865, and then you multiply that, and what I'm going to be going with is the nitro slash turbo, and that is, you have to multiply by 0.055, so 0.0055, and then that will give you basically what you need to go with. That will be 3.3865 times 0.0055, which would be about 18 thou. So that would be 0.018. And I have been reading on it, and some people recommend a little bit bigger of a gap. So I'm either gonna be, I think I'm gonna be looking for anywhere from 18 to 19. I think I'm gonna go with the higher side of it. So I am gonna be going to like the 19 thou range. All right guys, so after doing some more math, I figured out the second ring of what I'm gonna be going with, and what it is you're just basically adding, it says 0.004 to 0.008, bigger than the top ring. So I went with the lower side of it, and I'm gonna go with the 0.002 for my second ring. And just the oil ring says the minimum to basically go with is the basically 15 thou. So I think I do have all my measurements I need for my rings here, and yeah, we're gonna go from there. Alright, so right now what I'm going to be doing is weighing all of the pistons on the scale, and I'm going to be writing down all the weights I get, and I'm going to be basically separating everything evenly. Like if there's two pistons that are heavier, I'm going to stick those on basically the same upstroke, and vice versa. So I am going to be getting all the piston ring weights as well, and I am also going to come over here and get the rod weights as well. So I am going to be doing that real quick, and I'll get back to you guys when I have all the measurements down. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing right now is taking all of the ring set. So I'm not going to individualize them, I'm just going to take the entire set and weigh each one of them, and hopefully they all weigh out to be the same. So this one measures out at 21 grams. That one weighs out at 21 grams as well. So these should all be super close to each other. You shouldn't be that far off at all. That one's 21 grams as well. And I am keeping all of these rings and everything in the same order. I'll actually show you this last one. So if you set it on, same thing, 21 grams. So all the all of the rings do weigh out the same, all the sets. So we should be all good as far as balancing each one with the rings. Write down 21 grams. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to measuring each one of the actual pistons, and then I'm going to do the actual weight of the wrist pins. Alright, so another thing that I just went ahead and did is labeled all of the pistons with the corresponding, like I'm basically just like numbering them all. I'm gonna number the wrist pins as well, and the wrist pin clips shouldn't be that big of a deal. I'll weigh them just to go out of my way, but I do have each one of these weighed. That way when I do write it down, I have each one with its corresponding weight if it is just a little off. So that's why I'm saying I'm trying to keep everything, and if I have to line up, like let's say if this was a little off with this one to match up weight, I'll put 4 with 3, or like however it makes sense, but everything should be good. I'm just basically double checking all the work right now. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get at weighing all of the pistons, and then I'm gonna weigh all of the wrist pins, and then I'll move on to the rods. So I did end up weighing all of the pistons, and they all did weigh out at 300 grams exactly. None of them were off. So I am going to move on to weighing all of the wrist pins and then writing down that weight. Alright, so we did end up measuring all of the wrist pins as well. They are all 113 grams straight across the board, so those are even all good. And what I'm going to do is I will label each wrist pin as well. So since everything is all the same weight across the board, I'll just label each one and just put them with their corresponding number. But as far as now, I am going to be weighing all of the rods and making sure all the rods are the same weight as well. So, all right, and these are the Carrillo rods that I ended up going with. These are the Pro H-beams, and yeah, I'm going to basically be pulling all these out, individually weighing them on the scale, and making sure we can throw basically everything inside the motor and it be equally balanced. So. Yeah, I'm gonna get on these, weigh them all out, and yeah, we'll go from there. I'll move it this way. All right, guys, so I did get all of the weights for the rods, and just to basically like clarify right here, it does say the total weights for each one of them are 599 grams. So everything did check out perfect. All right, so now what I'm going to be moving on to is actually checking all of each one of these bores with my dowel bore gauge, and getting from here I basically should get my piston to wall clearance, and I am going to take my Mitsutoyo outer micrometers and measuring the skirts basically are the outer points of each one of these pistons, and then yeah, that'll determine whether the machine shop gave me a correct piston to wall clearance, which should be on this one is the tighter what's it called, it's a tighter clearance. I think it says right here that I just found it earlier. Yeah, right here. Piston to cylinder clearance is 0.0035, so it is a tighter clearance, and as far as the machine shop shows, that it should check out perfect. So I am going to double check all that work, but as far as right now, I am going to be coming over to this block and measuring all of the bores on each of the cylinders. All right, so what I'm going to be doing is setting the dowel bore gauge to 3.4 because what I'm going to be looking for is 3.3865. I think that's the exact number. So what I need to do on my micrometer is set that at my 3.3865 range. So I'm gonna grab the sheet just to. So yeah, I'll be basically setting it at the finish number right here on this after I zero it all out. So I'll need to come back with this I'm gonna come close. As you can see, this is my true 3-inch right here, and it is perfectly on 0. Is it not focusing? So this is the top of the board right here. So that one's almost dead, and that's on right there. 3.38. And yeah, so we're just gonna be doing that for the rest of the 3. I do a horizontal, top, mid, and bottom, and then I do a vertical top, mid, and bottom, just to kind of make sure everything is. But this was torque plate honed as well, so. All right, guys. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take my piston. I'm actually gonna measure the outer diameter of the piston. So what you want to do is measure towards like the bottom of the skirt, and then you can determine your piston wall clearance. So I'm going to do that to all 4 pistons right now, and write all those down, and then we'll come back and we'll see what our piston to wall clearance is. 3.3. All right, so I measured all of my pistons at the bottom, like the skirt, and I got all my measurements. Now I'm just gonna come back and look at all of my bores, and then I'll basically determine what my piston to wall clearance is. All right, so after doing all the math, as you can see, our first piston, the piston to wall clearance, is 39 thou. The second is 36 thou, and then the last is 39 thou again. So, I mean, we are basically all in range. We're all good. Nothing's like too much, so, and it's not too tight, so that should all be good. All right, so we did end up finishing measuring all of the pistons. We got all of the piston to wall clearance, all the weights, everything. Now what I'm going to be doing is pulling the crank over and measuring all of the rod journals, and then measuring all of the main journals. And then we can put the rods, the bearings with the rods, measure those, and then put the bearings inside of the block, and then measure that clearance as well, and then we can get our journal clearances, so all of our mains and rod journal clearances. So like I said, I'm going to get the micrometers right now and measure up this crank real quick. Alright, so all right here, these are all of the mains. It's just this third one that's just a hair bigger, the center one. But I mean, they're all super close. They're all within 1/10,000th of each other. So that's not bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and write all those down and put them in here, and then come across and do all of the rod journals real quick, and then we'll get all that written down. All right, so I just got all of the rod journals measured out. As you can see right here, they are all this is a 0. As you can see, they are all, what is it, 2/10,000ths from each other. So the first is 1 0, 1 1, 1 2, and 1 1. So those are all super close to each other. All right, so now I'm gonna head over and I'm going to get the piston rings, and I'm gonna start measuring all the piston rings. And I already know I'm gonna have to cut some down because I'm gonna get these a little bit bigger. So yeah, I'm just gonna throw all these rings in. Like I said, all these are for cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're just gonna come back and measure all those out real quick. All right, guys. So I am getting the first set of rings right here, and I'm gonna start out with the top ring and go down all the way to the oil ring. All right, guys. So I do have the first piston ring in, as you can see, and as you can see right now, the 12 thou fits. We're going to have to do a little bit of grinding on that one. yeah, I'm gonna get that one done, and then once I kind of show you this first one, then I'll just get all these done without showing you guys, because it's just repeating the same process. So I'll get after that one. All right, so as you've seen, I just ground it down a little. One thing you want to make sure to do, I don't know if you guys can really see it, but over here you're just gonna have like little burrs, and what you can do is just take a fingernail file and just get those little sharp edges off there, because you don't want to stick it back in your block and end up scoring the wall. So I'm just gonna repeat this process. All right, so right now we did get the first ring finished. Now we're working on doing the second compression ring, and the one that we are chasing, or the number that we're chasing on this one is 22 thou. That's 22 thou right there. So as you can see, so that one's actually perfect and ready to go. And now I'm just gonna kind of throw the 2 oil rings in here, and kind of just, it just says no minimum than 15. But yeah, so we're just gonna get all the other ones knocked out, just keep grinding all of them, and yeah, it should be pretty simple. All right, so I do have all of the ring gaps filled out, and they are all perfect. So next, I'm gonna flip the motor upside down and put the main bearings in and torque it down, and then we're gonna grab the dial bore gauge and see what the oil, or basically the clearances from the bearings to the main journals. All right, so I have the block flipped upside down. Now I am going to grab the Gradle and put all of the ARP studs in there, torque it all down with all of the bearings that I have. Right now, all I have is the standard size. So I am going to torque all these down, and like I said, grab my dial bore gauge, which is over here, and measure all and see if all of my oil clearances are going to be in spec. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and yeah, we'll go ahead and measure it all out. All right, so right now we do have all of the bearings inside, and now we're just going to have to torque each one to 60 foot-pounds of torque, which is going to be in 3 increments. All right, guys, so we have everything torqued down. We did 3 increments of for 60 pounds, so 20, 40, and 60. When I got this motor, these the main studs were already in, so I did never get any paperwork from APR or like wherever but these are APRs. But yeah, I did some research, and everyone on there is saying do 60 foot-pounds and 3 sequences, or like 3 increments of 60. So yeah, we got all that torqued down. Like I said, I'm gonna go grab the dial bore gauge now, and I'm gonna come inside here, and I'm gonna measure this half and this half through all of them, and then I should be able to get my main journal clearances, or my main journal outer diameter and this inner diameter, and then that should show us basically our what our oil clearance, our oil clearance is going to be. So well, I'm going to get on that real quick and get all that knocked out, write down some numbers, and then I'll get back with you guys. All right, guys, so just to explain what I'm going to be doing real quick, I'm going to be taking these top numbers, which I got for all of my main journals, and well, basically I'm going to set it at what the main journal should be set at, and or like basically what it was honed down to, or polished down to. So I'm gonna set each one, and then I'm gonna go back through into the block, and whatever this reads, it should read, so the 0 will be what it's supposed to be at, it should read behind, and whatever it reads behind, that would be my my oil clearance. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and set that up real quick, and then we'll get going. All right, guys, so I am gonna start with the dial bore gauge and come in the hole and start measuring. All right, guys. So I don't know if you could have seen the dial bore gauge at all, but like I said, I'm gonna come in this inner one right here, in this, or the outer one, and then this inner one. I'm gonna do that for all, and yeah, I'm gonna see what I come up with. All right, guys. So I measured these, the first 3, and then we had to take it off the engine stand and get these last 2. But I'm gonna go ahead and try and get these last 2 done and written down, and then we can make some further decisions.
Okay.
All right, guys. So we ended up remeasuring everything just to basically like double and triple check everything. But so I was doing some research, and after, so I had the outside and the inside measurements, because I mean there's a little groove inside, so I was just double checking all my work. But everything, this is like 1, 2, 3. Everything is super close, and so if you look down here, my first main is 25 thou. Second 24, 24, 25, and 25. So these are super close, which I honestly don't feel like this is going to be any issue. After doing some research, they said anywhere from like 20 thou to 25 thou is basically in spec, and like I said, this should actually give us really good oil pressure. So all of these bearings, and I'm actually super shocked because I honestly just went with the standard bearings. I'm actually shocked that I just needed the standard bearings to make it all work. I thought I was gonna honestly have to buy some more. But as of right now, we can basically just throw all the oil squirters in, torque all those down, unbolt this, and bolt the crank down, which we might do, and throw some assembly lube on here real quick, and get basically the crank all bolted down and ready to go. And then tomorrow, we are gonna actually go pick up a vise so we can clamp the rod vise down and torque all the rod bolts. Like I said, I still have some more things to do. I still have the rod bolts, or the rod bearings, to measure out, and like I said, all these, I only have 1 rod bolt stretch gauge, so I'm actually going to do each individual bolt before and after torque, and then the torque spec I got. So like I said, we do need to run down and get a vise, but I'm going to make this all one video. This whole bottom end is basically just me one video together. So yeah, I will just jump into tomorrow. But like I said, we are going to get the crank all torqued down, when basically see how freely it spins. But like I said, I'm happy on how everything came out. And yeah, so we'll just go from there. We'll get all this unbolted, the oil squirters in, and the crank. So we'll get on that right now. All right, so I just went outside in the box and grabbed all of the oil squirters real quick. We're just gonna I didn't get the assembly. Oh, we have some in the rods. I'm pretty sure we can just use. But yeah, we're gonna torque all these down. I'm gonna look up on my phone real quick and all the specs, and get these all torqued down. All right, so I do have all of the oil squirters all torqued down. Those called for 24 plus or minus 1 foot-pounds. So we got all that, and I'm just going to throw some assembly lube on these bearings, and yeah, we're going to get the crank all thrown on and torque it all down.
I'm going to rub it in. Oh, there we go.
Alright guys, so we do have all of the assembly lube installed on the bolts, and now we're just going to come over here and torque all of them down. This one, right? So we're just going to come across and torque them all down to 20, 40, and 60. Alright guys, so we do have the crank all torqued down in the 60 foot-pounds, 3 increments. So honestly, this thing feels super smooth. I mean, yeah, it's only sitting on the assembly lube right now, but there's, as you can see, there's like no resistance whatsoever. So it's super smooth. It's gonna be a little more stiff when we get all the rods in, but like I said, it's, as of right now, it's super good. I'm gonna put a dial gauge on the end right here, and I am gonna test the actual thrust, or the crank in play, just to make sure that thrust bearing is actually good enough, and it's actually the correct size but yeah, like I said, this thing is spinning really good right now, super smooth, no dragging, no catching, and like I said, everything checks out on the measurements, and it's pretty solid right now. So we're gonna go ahead and set that up, and then we'll get back. All right guys, so we just put the little stand on with the dial bore gauge on the end of the crank, and we just tested the in crank play, and it's perfect in spec. It's only 20 thou back and forth, so which is honestly nothing. But yeah, so as of right now, this motor is just ready for us to basically have the rods and pistons put in. Tomorrow, like I said, what we have to do is go get this other vise to hold the rod vise, and yeah, we'll basically go from there. But so the next little bit of the video will be probably us having the vise tomorrow and doing all that. But as of right now, tonight, we are currently at a hold. But yeah. All right, guys. So we did. Sorry for the noise in the background. We have a fan going over here. But we did get the vise, and right now what I'm doing is I'm just coming over here and measuring each of the rod bolts and keeping them in their order. And I'm actually putting the rods, or the bearings on the rods, and I'm going to basically start getting ready to torque all these down and test all of the rod bolt stretch, or the rod bearing stretch. I'm just going to get all these situated in. Alright, now what I'm going to do is grab the rod bolt stretch gauge, and I'm going to put it on and see where the bolt is actually sitting. Alright guys, so I do have the assembly lube on the first rod for the first piston. I have all the assembly lube on, I have it on the actual rod bolts. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp it in the vise and torque everything down to spec, and then check the rod bolt stretch, and then I'm actually going to come in here and measure the actual bearing with my dial bore gauge. Alright guys, so right now I'm just going to be snugging both of the bolts up, and what it says on the one, I don't know if you guys can see or not, but it says the one that we are going to be going for is supposed to have 58 foot-pounds of torque, and then after we torque that, then we'll come look at the chart and see the stretch we're supposed to have. Alright, so we do have the first one all torqued down to 58 foot-pounds, which it calls for. Now what we're going to be looking for is how much, so I do have it already zeroed out. We're going to be looking for anywhere so 65 to 0.0080. Alright guys, so as you've seen this from before, this thing was super hard just to hold. So we actually built like a little mount for it at the table. But so this is the second rod. We're kind of just figuring everything out. It is a little harder with just one of these rod bolt stretch gauges, and that reason being that when you zero this one out, like let's say I zeroed, I have each one of these numbered 1 and 2. That way over here I can write down each individual bolt because I don't have an individual one. But this number 1 bolt, it took just the 58 foot-pounds in order to get the proper amount of stretch on the bolt, and it was at its minimum, which was 60 right here, which was 65, and I had to basically calculate, or I had to bring it back because I have to measure these both and see the difference between them, and then after I have to basically account that same difference. So this one was actually at 6 thou, and it needed to be at it needed to basically a half of a tenth more, so 5/10 more. Yeah, I think it's that. Yeah, so 5/10 more. So yeah, it's, I mean, it's a little tricky with just one of these, but you can get it done. That's why I made this this sheet for it, so it's a little easier. But like I said, we are getting all this knocked out. We've kind of just not really been recording and just knocking all of it out. But yeah, I'm gonna get all of these inner diameter for the bearings on the rods all measured out and calculated after I get all the torques for each of the bolts. So we're just gonna keep going at it, and yeah. All right, guys. So we do have all of the clearances for the rods and mains. All the rods are down here. They're all basically loose, and I'm going to start slapping all of the wrist pins and the pistons on here and all the rings. And we are actually going to start putting the all of the rods and pistons inside of the block and getting this thing basically ready for a head. I'm honestly planning on probably slapping on the head and putting the turbo kit and everything on here, kind of getting it all set and ready to go back in the car. Before I do put it in the car though, I am going to put the tranny and T-case on. I'm just going to probably do all the hot parts and leave the intake stuff off, so it's a little easier to squeeze into the car. But like I said, yeah, I am going to start assembling these. I'll probably do a little time lapse on one of them, and yeah, we'll just go from there. So like I said, everything did check out good as far as clearances are, so I'm actually really happy with how these came out. I'm actually surprised on how close they are. Each one of these are like I think 2/10 of a thou away from each other. So I think it like this, like anywhere from like 20, what was it, 25 to 28 or whatever. So I mean, it's, after reading and doing some research, that's actually like, you wanna run a little looser than the standard size for just like what Mitsubishi basically calls for on theirs. So we do have these all set and ready. Like I said, this crank is still all good. So yeah, I'm gonna start assembling all of these and slapping these rods and pistons in here. All right, guys, so this step is gonna be like fairly simple. I mean, we've already done all the hard stuff as far as like the piston rings and everything go. So these are all measured and everything. Like I said, I still have every piston numbered, and as far as the rings go, I have these numbered as well. So oh yeah, and I guess we even measured all of the wrist pins too. So everything is basically from here on out just like put them together, slap them in, and I mean, we're done. So as of right now, what I'm going to do is get just the pistons on the rods all facing in basically the right direction, and then we'll focus on doing all of the rings next. Alright guys, so now I'm going to be starting to put the first piston oil ring, the bottom oil ring on. Alright guys, so I do have all of the rings installed. So after reading the book, it does say the bottom and top oil rings are the rails, or however you want to say it. It says put those 180. So what I'm going to do is line those up each on the sides of these wrist pins. So this one, as you can see, is right here, and I am going to grab this other top one, and I'm going to spin this one in that same location. So there it is. I have this one, the top on the right side and the bottom on this left side. And then as you can see, let me find it with my eyes. Okay, and the middle ring is dead center right here. So I have them all separated from each other. Alright guys, so what I am going to do is get a little bit of assembly lube on my finger. and rub it inside the cylinder wall, so when it slips in, it doesn't like catch or mess anything up. Then I did wipe all of these cylinder walls down already. I'm gonna get some and put it on the ring squeezer as well. Alright guys, so I do have assembly lube on the bottom of these rods, and I'm going to go ahead and twist the crank to the bottom. So on number 1 cylinder, the crank is all the way down. And just slowly feed these through so you don't scratch the cylinder wall. I'm going to wiggle it in. I need a hammer. So, as you can see, I'm just pushing it down with my hands a little. And if we look up under here, we can see, I don't know if you can see it, but the rod is actually coming down. And I'm going to let it go all the way down and hook everything back up. Alright guys, so now what I'm doing is setting up my torque wrench. I already have the bottom cap, the rod cap on, and I'm just going to torque these down to what we took our measurements to before. So first I'm just going to kind of like snug them down, both of them. So I'm setting this up right now. But on the sheet, what we did have was 58 foot-pounds for the first bolt on the first rod and 65 on the second bolt first rod. So the bottom right here will be the 55.
Is that the first one?
Yeah.
You got one.
1 and 2. So like I said, I'm just gonna snug these down. Don't over torque one or the other, just gonna snug them both so you don't short anything. Now set the other one to 65 foot-pounds because that's what we had to get it to work. The proper stretch on the bolt. And the first one is complete. Now we're just, what I'm gonna do, because the crank is already at the bottom, I'm gonna start with number 4 so I don't have to keep spinning the motor over and over and over. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the number 4 all squeezed and everything, and we'll move on to the 2 centers. That is all it for the second one. As you can see, this thing still spins super easy. I am going to go ahead and spin it in a circle and get these 2 to the bottom. And like I said, now it should just be all downhill for the the second and third rods. So I'm just going to spin this back over. And yeah, so we'll get going on those last 2. guys, so as you can see, we do have all of the rods and pistons in. And I mean, this is just me turning with my hand. Usually like we would just hook up a bolt or whatever and spin it. But as you can see, this thing is spinning super, super nice. So I'm really happy on how it came out. Like I said, basically everything went pretty smooth as far as putting in the pistons and the rings and all that, the rods, all that's really smooth. And after turning it a few times, you can still see in all of the walls, there's no scoring or anything. So I mean, nothing's kind of like binding up on any of these. Everything sounds really solid and smooth. So all right guys, so that is going to wrap it up for this video. Like I said, I know I'm kind of just coming back out of nowhere, but I am trying to keep the Evo build kind of like actually going and not try and skip any steps like I have in the past. Another thing I do want to do is record an update on the GTI, sorry. Like I said, I do have bad news for it. I only got like those like 2 videos I've got, and I can post those too. I'll do that when I do post the video for the GTI, like the little update. But yeah, so we're basically going to be doing a whole new build on the GTI as well. After I just want to get this one knocked out, finished, and out of the way. It has been taking me a while just to kind of do all this, because I have been just buying a bunch of tools. You know, I've been trying to get the dial calipers, the micrometers, the dial bore gauges. I've been trying to get all of that stuff. So I do have it all now, so the GTI shouldn't be that hard. But yeah, like I said, tomorrow I did bring in the head, the L19 studs. So I mean, I guess you guys can probably like go ahead and guess what's going to happen on tomorrow's video. And I do have my whole turbo kit, and I have everything ready to get this car going. I was gonna spray paint the block, but I mean it's really, there's no rust on here. Like there's like this little bit of like white film, but I honestly just, I mean it's not in bad shape. So I am just gonna go ahead and leave it how it is. But yeah, like I said, I will be coming back with another video, and we won't be inside my house. I just did all this to maintain a temperature for the block, so all my measurements and all that will be correct. But yeah guys, so that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Thanks again for tuning in. I know it's been a while. I'm gonna try and get back on my grind. I've just been busy working, and trying to get back a little bit on the YouTube. So yeah, hopefully this comeback will be better than any of the other ones. But yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you have any questions, and share the video as well if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends, everything. So thank you guys. I'm out of here, and until next time.